Good morning, guys. Bit of a different video this morning. Not camper van related, not motorcycle related, but local history related. Just over the road from where I live, Cofton Common. I'm going to take a walk over there and show you a little bit of local history, but with a bit of mystery involved as well. Hope you'll stay with us. See you in a minute. As you can see, it's absolutely gorgeous today. That's part of the old Longbridge plant. But what a beautiful morning. Anyway, all this was a prisoner of war camp, and mainly Italian conscripts, so I'm led to believe. 17, 18-year-old lads. And what's strange about it, they were allowed out into the community during the day and did odd jobs for the local residents, washing cars, bit of gardening, bit of DIY, that sort of thing. And the local residents weren't allowed to pay them in money, but they could feed them and clothe them and help them in that way. And all the lads had to be back in the camp by 5 o'clock in the evening. Now, what's strange about all this is the fact that weeks after the war ended, it was completely bulldozed, and there is now no trace whatsoever that it ever existed, and it's been eradicated from local history. You can't find any trace of it anywhere in Birmingham's history, in the history books, in the list of POW camps during the Second World War. There is nothing that mentions this prisoner of war camp whatsoever. And the only reason I came to know about it was there are still a few residents in this area old enough to remember it. And a very good friend of hers, her mother was actually a small child when it was here, and she can remember the inmates, so to speak, coming into the local community and washing cars and sweeping drives, mowing the lawn, that sort of thing. And the parents feeding them and clothing them, giving them boots and trousers and all that sort of thing. But I've heard this from 2 or 3 residents that are still living, and I find it really sad that there is nothing. It's almost as if the local council are ashamed of it, and they've decided to eradicate it from the history. Very sad, really, because the people that can remember it are knocking on a bit now. They're well into their 80s, and you know, when they've gone, there's nobody here to pass that history on, and I find that very, very sad. I'm trying to find the concrete bunker. It's all overgrown. Let's take a walk over here. There's not, as I say, I found this years ago. I mean, I've lived in this area for 30 years or so, and I was told about this a long time ago. But when you try and find anything, you know, you're up against a brick wall, because there's nothing written down. It's very strange, very sad as well. You know, history's there to educate us, really, and it's all gone. I can't. It's years since I've been over here, so I used to walk the dog over here years ago. Can't find it now. It's it's not sticking up out of the ground. You can just literally see the concrete on the top. But yeah, I've heard from 3 or 4 residents that are still lived in this area during the war, well into their 80s now, and as I say, and they're the only ones that can remember it, and it's all going to be lost, and it's a shame. And you ever get that feeling when something intrigues you that much, you try and delve into it and learn about it, and then you come up against a brick wall? It just makes you a bit more determined to find out a bit more, doesn't it? And that's what it's like here. It's the mystery of why is there no record? Why has it been eradicated from history? You know, it's very strange. It just makes you want to delve into it a little bit more and try and find out. But unfortunately, you know, we're not able to. So yeah, I believe it finished round about here. But all these houses that you see, you know, all those houses there, and they go way back over there, the ones you've just seen in the background, all that was the POW camp. And literally within weeks of the war ending, it was bulldozed. And I mean, a good friend of ours, the mum, told us quite a few years ago that it all happened that quick. You know, there was rumours going around at the time, you know, what are they trying to hide? Why is it happened so quickly? And, you know, I mean, the rest of the country was still partying at the end of the war, and they were knocking the POW camp down. So, yeah, it's, see all these houses over here, they were all part of it. All this land behind that hedge we've just seen, that was all part of it. And yeah, it's very sad that we're losing this part of history. Anyway, let's enjoy our walk. If anybody watches this and can shed some light on anything to do with the camp, please let me know. I've been trying to find out for years, but just keep hitting a brick wall. So I'd love to know if anybody can shed some light on it. I've written to the council. I've looked on all the usual government sites for things like that, and you know, there are over 20 POW camps in this country during the Second World War, and they're all listed apart from this one. And when I first found that out, I thought, no, surely they're mistaken. But you know, I was talking to several people. They all can't be mistaken, can they? And also spoke to the president of the local Austin Village Preservation Society, and although he's not old enough to remember, he can remember the stories his parents used to tell him about the conscripts and coming into the village, and what nice lads they were. Excuse me. And they never caused any problems. There was never any trouble here. They didn't cause problems in the community when they came out, and they were all lads at the end of the day. They weren't hardened soldiers, and indeed some of them, when the war finished, they stayed. Some of them got shipped back, and some of them absconded and stayed here and settled and made a life over here, married local girls and had families and what have you. But again, trying to trace it is you know, knocking your head against a brick wall. But yeah, so if anybody can shed any light on it, I'd really appreciate that, because it's something that's baffled me for a few years, and I'm not a local historian by any stretch of the imagination, but when something intrigues you, you try and find out a little bit more, don't you? And when you can't find out, it makes you a little bit more determined, which has been the case. So yeah, if you can shed some light, drop a comment, or let me know. I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, let's carry on with the walk. It's absolutely gorgeous this morning. Look at that, look at that. It's countryside. You wouldn't think you're in South Birmingham, would you? Hey? Absolutely gorgeous. And the only thing I can hear at the moment is cows moving and birds in the background. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, let's carry on. I'm enjoying this walk. It's a shame I haven't got more time. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful today. But yeah, getting back to the POW camp. It's sad, but it's literally 200, 300 yards away from my house. It's amazing what lies on your doorstep, really, and you don't really look into it that much, do you? You tend to see new developments going up and what have you, and you tend to ignore what's happened in the past. But it's absolutely fascinating, I think. But the next point of interest, as we're so close to the old Longbridge works, the Longbridge tunnels. Whether you've heard of the Longbridge tunnels or not, miles and miles of tunnels built before the Second World War, when they knew the war was coming, and in those tunnels they built, there was what they called the ghost factory, and they built engines for Spitfires and Hawkers, Merlin engines predominantly, for the Spitfires and the Hawkers, which played a massive part in the Battle of Britain. But yeah, miles and miles of tunnels, and yeah, they made munitions and engines, engine parts, all that sort of stuff for the war effort. And of course, when Rover collapsed in 2005, they started the clearance, and there's I think you see in the distance there, over there, that is now part of the old Longbridge site, now a housing estate. And I'm led to believe that the tunnels have just been filled in. There was talk of turning them into a museum, and in fact they did find an old Mini in the tunnels, and legend has it that that Mini ended up there because the workers, or a worker in particular, dropped a container on top of it while it was being built, so they hid it. Whether or not that story is true, I'm not 100% sure, but again, if anybody can shed any more light on that, I'd be really interested. But yeah, excuse me, there was talk of turning the tunnels into a museum, because after all it is part of Birmingham's history, but unfortunately it was filled in and a big housing estate was put on top of it. They're still building that housing estate, but it's a massive site. But again, it's just a shame that that history, which is part of local history, has been lost. And there will come a day when there's nobody left to tell the stories, and that's very sad. You know, local history is it's fascinating, and you know what's on your doorstep. All this is less than a mile from where I live, right on. So much history dating back years, and so much intrigue, and especially the camp. But yeah, it's all going to be lost. So, you know, come on, councils all over the country, start preserving our history a little bit more. It's what we learn from in the end of the day. They're coming down to Richard's farm, just there. It's been there many a year, Richard's farm. There you can get a better look at the housing estate that's gone up, which used to be part of the old Longbridge site. In case anybody asks, we have got permission to walk across these fields. We're not just trampling along farmers' fields here. We have got permission. So yeah, no worries there. In fact, there is a little bit of a path here, you can see. But yeah, don't go trampling along farmers' fields without permission. But we do have permission. This is a designated footpath area. Back on it now. We're just coming out onto the onto the lane and the churches. This style. Excuse the shaky hands. Legs are not as supple as they used to be. Yeah, so the church is just round this corner, and directly opposite, you can see it's only a narrow lane, but directly opposite used to be the entrance to the old tunnels, which sadly has been blocked up now. Obviously you can see just the tops of the houses there and where the site used to be, and the tunnels used to go underneath. I mean, there were literally thousands of people worked in those tunnels during the war, men and women. And if you go on, just got to Google it, the Longbridge tunnels, there's somebody's gained access to it a few years back, about 7 or 8 years ago, before this all this development took off, and took some photos on the inside. I wish I'd have I wish I'd have done that myself. I found these tunnels years ago. Yeah, I wish I'd have took the opportunity to sneak in. But yeah, some fascinating pictures in there, and it just shows you the scale of what they built. These are steps leading up to the church, but a bit further up is the main gate, and see if we can have a walk round before we start heading back. I have to start heading back soon. Things to do, people to see, you know. But yeah, round about where this brick wall is, that was the entrance to the tunnels, and now you can see they've put a walkway there to the new housing estate. Very nice, very modern, but unfortunately right on top of a major piece of Birmingham history. You can see that. coming, so we'll let that pass. Yeah, that there is where the entrance used to be. It's now, as you can see, sadly lost. Yeah, round about there. Can't quite remember the exact spot. I believe it's round about where that concrete wall, that brick wall is. That was the entrance. So this is Cofton Church, and this dates back to the 11th century, and I believe that it was mentioned in what they call a papal bull in 1182 AD. 12th century grade 2 listed. That's a hell of a tree to cut down. Some firewood off that one. So again, yeah, you see the other side of the lane, you've got the more recent history of the Longbridge tunnels. On this side, you've got an 11th century church. And you can see by some of these stones how old it is. Many years ago, the church was always open and you were allowed to just walk in, and they'd got a plaque inside telling you the history of the church itself. I don't know whether that's still the case. Locked. Sign of the times, I suppose. Yeah, this was, you can see by some of the gravestones, you know how old it is. Fascinating old churches, aren't they? Yeah, this was the present church is believed to date back to the 14th century, rebuilt in 1330 by Robert de Leicester. Whoever Robert de Leicester was. Haven't managed to source any info on Mr. Leicester. But yeah, it was renovated in 1861 by architect Henry Day. Fascinating. Some lovely old graves up here. I hope I'm not standing on any. Forgive me if I am. See, there's one here that's, you know, it's sad that they've gone to decay like that. They actually traced my wife's ancestors back to 1600, a few years back in South Wales, and that was interesting because there was a family grave cordoned off in the corner of the graveyard, but they weren't gravestones, they were tombstones lay on the ground, about 5 or 6 of them. And further round there was another one which must have been 6-7 foot long, lay on the ground, and it actually had the history of their ancestor, who he was in the community and who he married, what his life was. And then right at the end, a little scroll right at the end said, "He who shall remove this stone shall be cursed for life." To show you what they believed in 1600, the 1600s anyway. Yes, nice peaceful places. And the other end of the spectrum from what's over the road in the tunnels. Yeah, if anybody can shed any light on anything we've spoke about, the tunnels and the POW camp, please let me know. I'm fascinated by local history. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, so please, if what I've spoke about this morning is in any way inaccurate, please drop me a comment and put me right on that, because as I say, especially with the camp, it's only hearsay, it's only witness accounts, there's nothing written down, which we know can be misleading anyway, but sadly there's very few people still alive that can remember it, so it's important to learn from that and extract that knowledge. It should really be written down. It's a modern world really, history has no relevance, does it really? Okay, well, I'm going to sign off now, guys. Sorry to get that lady's number plate in. Yeah, I'm going to sign off now. Hope you enjoyed this little video. If you did, please consider subscribing. There'll be a lot more coming, travel, motorcycles, camper vans, local history, that sort of thing. So yeah, please consider subscribing, and we'll take you on along the journey. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe.